Hello and welcome to a bonus episode of the League One Lowdown, brought to you by the Tech Podcast Network. It's myself, Seb Jones, and Jamie Johnson, usually here on the review episode of the League One Lowdown. But right now, we're going to bring you a bonus preview episode ahead of a full round of fixtures on Tuesday night. We've got 12 games to get through. We're going to look at 6 of them in detail. Jamie, just before we get cracking, how have you been?
Yeah, I mean, exactly the same as it was an hour ago when we recorded the review podcast, not to pull back the curtain too far. I feel like I have to say that for people on YouTube who've seen me in the same clothes I had on for the last one, I think maybe I'll just repeat. But no, here we are, obviously recording this straight after the review show. But yeah, no, I'm still good. Slightly tighter than I was when we started the last one, so we'll get there slowly. With the clocks obviously changing last night, I sort of done us both in a little bit. But no, all is well as it's a busy midweek we've got to talk about.
Busy midweek, yeah. What the viewers or listeners haven't seen is the amount of yawns I clearly have undertaken between stopping filming
Hopefully you've got
the
them all out.
review. Hopefully, I've got them all out. Yeah, between stopping the review recording and starting the preview recording. So hopefully, if I do yawn, then my apologies. Just my body adapting to the hour. I can't believe I'm apologising for yawning that I'm not even doing. Anyway, we'll get cracking with the games taking place on Tuesday night. We picked out 6, as I mentioned, that we're going to look at in depth, and then we're going to cover the rest of them at the end. We're going to start off looking at Blackpool facing Reading. Blackpool on a really good run of form. If you haven't caught our review episode, and catch that, we chatted quite a bit about Blackpool and their recent good run of form. They've got a chance to extend that against another side now who are 11 games unbeaten in Reading. So clearly 2 sides, Jamie, on a good run of form.
Well, exactly that. It's only 1 defeat in 5 for Blackpool. You mentioned the 11 unbeaten for Reading. They've quite a few draws in there, but they're unbeaten, and that is an impeccable run for them. I think the positive heading into this one is the fact that how the head-to-head record reads in their last 4 meetings since the start of 2023. We've had a 3-0, a 3-2, a 4-1, and a 3-1. So there's been
Damn.
plenty of goals over recent times for these two. Perhaps a Steve Bruce led side will try and put an end to that in this one. But Blackpool can close the gap. They're 5 points behind Reading, who occupy the final playoff spot heading into this game, and they can obviously therefore close this gap to 2. And I think it's a must win. I know we spoke a little bit in terms of how likely we think it is that they'll get into the playoffs. If they lose this, it is firmly a no, because they could be as much as 8 points off. With we're getting down to only a handful of games between now and the end of the season. Then, so this is a must-win for Blackpool and perhaps for Reading as well. As much as they're on this great run, they just need to keep their head above the water in terms of that line between 6th and 7th, with just a bulk of teams chasing
Yeah.
them, as well as Blackpool. You got Leyton, Orient, who we're going to talk about, Huddersfield, Bolton. I mean, there's a lot of teams chasing for those couple of spots, with Stockport seemingly sort of have concreted that 5th spot that everyone's sort of chasing for 6th now. We've sort of got that top 5, and they'll finish in some sort of order between them, the 4 behind Birmingham, and then everyone's fighting for one spot that Reading currently occupy. So I think this is going to be an interesting game. 2 informed sides, as you mentioned, 2 teams who have scored plenty of goals against each other in recent times, and 2 teams that need to win to keep themselves in the front seat in terms of the playoff chase.
Yeah, it is 10th versus 6th, but I think that sort of doesn't do enough justice for Blackpool. And they are, you mentioned, they are 5 points off of Reading, who are in occupying the last spot. But yeah, Blackpool themselves on a win, on a run of occupying 4 wins out of their last 5. So the momentum is with them in terms of how the results they've picked up as well. That their home form is pretty good. The strike force is pretty good. You know, both Ennis and Fletcher both scoring in the last 2 games, and they'll be important facing Reading in the next one, won't they? And hopefully they'll get on the score sheet again.
Yeah, they've been absolutely crucial. Now, we spoke about the pair of them on the review show, and similar things to Stockport in terms of the front 2 both scoring. These have done it more consistently at Blackpool. over recent games. And to have a front two who are firing at any point of the season is a real gift. But to have them firing at this stage of the season is gold dust, really. And that's what you need if you are going to challenge for the playoffs and challenge to try and just work your way up the table. You need your two up top or two or three, whatever it is you've got up front. They need them to be firing on all cylinders, which is happening at the minute for Blackpool. It's slightly unconventional, I think, the two of them together, but it works. And that's perhaps why Steve Bruce is a football manager and we're not, that you don't sort of see that as two that would work together, but it's working absolute wonders for Blackpool. And yeah, they need a little bit more of that magic if they're going to see past Reading with their sort of dodgy home form, really, Blackpool.
Yeah, and you mentioned Reading, sort of they're inconsistent, but actually they managed to not lose games, which I guess is a big key, and they're continuing to, I guess, defy the odds and ignore all the off-field matters that we've covered, myself and you, Jamie, and also Sam and Callum on the preview podcast of the League One Lowdown. We've chatted about Reading many a times, but they just continue to sort of deny any expectations and put off-field matters to the side, and they'll be hoping to make it 12. But it won't be easy for them, I guess. Travelling to Bluefield Road, always a tough place. But Reading have got that history of the good form behind them.
Yeah, of course, and obviously we had Andy Preston with us last week to talk about that Reading situation in more detail. I mean, I've done an away day at Bloomfield Road, and that wind that wraps around where the away end used to be. I know they've moved it now, but behind the goal, to the sort of the west, the left of where the dugouts, that side of the ground where the away end was an awful place to sit and watch a game of football because the wind sort of wrapped around that corner off the seafront. But yeah, not a inviting place for visiting fans and not really for players either. It's a bit of it's a proper ground is Bloomfield Road. But yeah, this will be a good game, and we put it first for a reason in this podcast because it's one of the big ones in terms of Tuesday night, and plenty more in that playoff picture too.
Yeah, certainly. So, and then the next match we're going to look at in detail is between a match between two teams that need points for separate reasons. Burton and Albion at the bottom of the table need points to stay up. Meanwhile, Leyton and Orient need points to get themselves back among the playoff pack. So, different permutations for either side. I guess Burton and Albion have got the home advantage, but they've not been on a great run of form, have they, recently, Burton?
Yeah, you've stolen my word there. Permutations at top and bottom for this one. Leyton Orient, they can get back in the playoffs, actually. I mean, it's unlikely because they've got those sort of two or three teams above them that they need all of those to drop points, but they can mathematically at least get into the playoffs. They've got quite a decent goal difference, have Leyton Orient, because of Charlie Kelman, really. I mean, he's been superb. And they've come back well of Leyton Orient, and I'll come to Burton in a second. The question you put to me, they've come back well from 5 losses in a row, and they've got back on the right side of footing. And I mean, the fact that they've lost 5 in a row and are still in this picture is quite remarkable in itself. But they're very much in the mix, and he's got the most non-penalty goals in the division as Charlie Kelman. Only Kone and Stansfield, I think it is, have scored more overall, and he's been absolutely incredible for Leyton Orient, leading the line superbly. As for Burton, you mentioned their poor run, not won since they pinched a 1-0 victory at Lincoln quite a few games ago now, and they just need victories. And I think I spoke at the time that they grind out results, and they feel like a team who can just not play well or play for moments in a game and come out of it with something. Perhaps they've lost that a little bit over these last few, so they just need to win. This no easy task, though. Leyton Orient, of course, in the mix of the playoffs, they're desperate for points themselves and are really clinging on to their hopes of gate crashing the top 6. Burton, desperate to see that gap close between themselves and Bristol Rovers. Northampton Town, obviously, just above that as well. It's 6 points. They've got a game in hand, which will be played, I believe, the week after this. Don't quote me on that, though. I know it obviously can't be played too far in future because we've got very short period of time between now and the end of the season on the first weekend of May. So there's not long now, and we'll all figure out where everyone's going to lay. But it's 6 points the gap. Burton will be looking to half that with victory against Leyton Orient.
Yeah, just to correct you on that, actually, Burton managed a victory couple of Saturdays ago away at Shrewsbury, but themselves,
course, yeah.
Shrewsbury are probably one of the how can I say this? One of the poorest sides in the division. So I guess a victory. I'm not surprised you bypass that because everyone seems to be beating Shrewsbury. Or everyone seems to already have beaten Shrewsbury over the course of the season. But yeah, nevertheless, still Manchester still applies that they still have that gap to chase down to Burton Albion. But yeah, they still have something to cheer about, although that was away from home. This one, they are at home at the Peterborough Stadium against a Leyton Orient side that need the points equally, just as much as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. The next one we're going to look at in detail is the one I am donning, the Joe Taylor derby. Lincoln City hosting Huddersfield Town. Jamie, you're going to be at this one. Huddersfield inconsistent. They've had 2 games under John Worthington. One was a 5-1 victory. The other one was a 4-0 defeat. So certainly inconsistent in 2 games. I don't know if that's sort of an antithesis of each other, but nevertheless, inconsistencies showing. As for Lincoln, it just quite hasn't been it over the past few games. Themselves have been inconsistent. In the last 5, it's been 2 victories, 2 defeats, and a draw. So it's sort of 2 inconsistent sides going head to head in this one.
Yeah, I do want to mention one more thing on Burton, if I can. They had their last 3 victories have been on the road. You've got to go back to January to find a win on their own patch, which isn't exactly optimal. With this game, obviously on Tuesday night being on their own piece of grass. But Lincoln, I mean, inconsistent's the word. I think the thing is they're inconsistent in results, but perhaps not in performances because XG wise, I think they put them 6th or 7th in the table overall, and they create a whole load of chances. They beat Bristol Rovers last time I was at the LNER and played them off the park. Then they followed up against Exeter with a goalless draw where they created a similar amount of chances, and rather than putting 5 in the back of the net, they put 0 in the back of the net, and they've not scored in 2 games in a row now, and that is a bit of a mystery because obviously they brought in James Collins. He didn't play against Wickham, but they brought in a proven goal scorer, and they've got a Jovan McCarmer who has been in hot form over recent weeks. And I mean, Ben House hasn't scored. I think it's over 1,000 minutes since Ben House last scored. He's been pulled back into midfield now as of late. And they've just not been able to find the back of the net consistently enough. And that has been the issue, not the chance creation, as I say. They're creating a load of chances, very consistently doing so, but not putting them in the back of the net. And Paul O'Connor's going to miss this one, I think, is the other thing I wanted to mention. He was sent off against Wickham, and I think Michael Zguala said they may appeal it, but even if they do, I don't think there'll be enough time for him to come back for this one. It was a straight red for him. They'll be hoping, of course, it gets rescinded. But yeah, Huddersfield, they need to bounce back. I think this, of course, the game against Charlton, losing 4-0 was a test in itself, but this is the first test in terms of mentality for John Worthington and the new the interim sort of the coaching staff at Huddersfield is, can they bounce back? Can they pick that team back up from the real low of getting battered at the Valley? Can they be picked back up in time for a very quick turnaround to travel to Lincoln here? That's the query for me, and that will be the interesting thing to see on Tuesday night, is that can they be picked back up? And I'm in the fortunate position I've not got as much sort of reporting duties to do as usual for that Lincoln game. So I've got more time to watch the actual game because I feel like you report, or I mean, you do commentary as well, Seb. If you're doing that sort of role at a game, you don't remember intricacies of it. Whereas I've got a bit more time to just watch the game, which will be nice, and I'll be able to pick out a couple of bits that perhaps that won't be too out of date by the time we come back to record. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's an interesting game. Yeah, 2 teams that are inconsistent in terms of their results. Yeah, but interesting to see if Huddersfield, more important, can get back on track in terms of trying to get back into the playoffs themselves.
Yeah, so it's 12th versus 7th, Lincoln in 12th and Huddersfield just behind the top six. And when the two sides faced each other earlier on this season, finished 2-2 at the John Smiths. But when they played each other in 2019, flashing minds back to that late on in the EFL Cup, it was Lincoln that got the advantage. And both of those games were at the John Smiths. So the first time in recent history that the two teams are playing at the LNER Stadium. So certainly interesting one. Two sides that are consistently inconsistent, I think, is the best way to put that. We're going to take a short break now, but we'll be back in just a moment to discuss the more fixtures taking place on Tuesday. Hello and welcome back to the special preview League One Lowdown show with myself, Seb Jones, and Jamie Johnson, looking ahead to Tuesday night fixtures in League One. We've already covered 3 of the games set to take place. We're going to now turn our attention to another more 3 in detail, and we'll start with the Lancashire derby, if we can call it the Greater Manchester derby. Choose your pick, select the most appropriate as you wish to make sure we please all listeners / viewers. In the game between Wigan and Bolton. So Bolton, having had such a good run of form when Ryan Lowe, beg your pardon, Stephen Schumacher first took charge. Ryan Lowe is the Wigan manager, hence my confusion. Stephen Schumacher taking over at Bolton. Things have not looked good in the past 3 games for Bolton, and that's resulted in 3 defeats. As for Wigan, we don't really have much to play for this season. It's all about ending the season on a high. They got the draw at home to Barnsley at the weekend. They're at home again this time out, and they'll hope to go one better against their rivals, shall we say.
Well, that's it, isn't it? I mean, you always want to win these sort of derby games, and even if Wigan, rightfully so, as you mentioned there, so don't have a whole lot to play for in terms of league position, it's all sort of casting an eye to next season. You always want to beat those teams in and around you geographically, and this one's a big one in that respect. Ryan Lowe, it's all about setting up for next season and seeing where his squad is ahead of the next campaign, whereas Bolton want to get themselves back into the driving seat of the playoff race. 3 losses in a row, and it's no longer theirs to sort of grab a hold of, with Reading sort of taking priority there. A really massive game. And can they spin it around at what will be, you imagine, a pretty hostile atmosphere, a Tuesday night under the lights? I mean, there could be very atmospheric games of football, and it's a big one. It's a real test, this, of Bolton's attitude and aptitude, if you like, as well, in terms of trying to get themselves back where they want to be and back where obviously they think they belong. In terms of being in the playoffs. So I mean, it's a real challenge, this one, though, for Bolton. I don't think it's a rollover at all, travelling to Wigan.
Yeah, for sure. It won't be easy. It's a tough challenge for either side. I guess Bolton will be the ones that will have that fire in their bellies on the back of the 3 defeats. I look at it in terms of their attacking force. McAtee, Collins and Sean have all sort of got good numbers. Collins, we know his quality. McAtee as well. Collins has got 10 goals this season. McAtee 11, and the 2 of which just have struggled really. Collins scored at the weekend against Blackpool, but other than that, the goals have been hard to come by, and they need sort of the attacker players to start firing again, and they're going to be without Aaron Morley in the centre of midfield, so that's another key player missing. Sort of things seem to be going against them, but they have to get the season back on track and do what they can in these final few games to push for the final playoff spot.
Yeah, exactly that. I don't think I've got too much to add, really, because you've summed it up nice in terms of them just needing results. And Tuesday night, it could be a pivotal one. You look back at the end of the season, either one way or the other, that this game has turned it around after 3 defeats and got them back on the right track, or it's compounded those issues and seen them a contributing factor in terms of not getting into the playoffs. So it's a real sort of on a knife edge, if you like, with terms of Bolton's season in a big game like this on Tuesday.
Yeah, talking of a big game, this time relating to a side at the bottom, and that's Crawley Town hosting Peterborough United. I guess a few weeks ago, this would have been a battle of two sides towards the bottom. Peterborough have picked up a really good run of form, and they've actually climbed to 15th in the table, and that's despite defeat at the weekend. But they've been on a really good run of form. Crawley, however, do find themselves in a difficult position, and Crawley that are the home side. It's going to be a tough one for them. They have clawed it back in recent weeks in terms of results, and I guess you wouldn't put it past them to perhaps get something out of this one either.
Yeah, I think they've summed up quite nicely there. I mean, they're 3 points from safety if they manage to win this one, and it would put them above Burton should Burton lose. And out of nowhere, really. I mean, the two wins in a row since Scott Lindsay came back in has revitalised Crawley. I know we wrote off Cambridge and Shrewsbury. I'm hoping at least we didn't write Crawley off, but they've been absolutely incredible since.
Clipped now. We're going to be clipped about podcasts from months ago.
Done a couple of weeks ago. But alas, they're in a real position where they could threaten the teams above the drop zone. And yeah, 2 wins in a row, 2 clean sheets as well. And they've done that with 2 different goalkeepers. Joe Wallacott was back in net for this one after Timothée Latula, who was on loan at Doncaster Rovers last season, stood in as the emergency loanee for the win against Bristol Rovers. So interesting one there that they've kept back-to-back clean sheets with different people between the sticks. But yeah, a really huge game. Yeah, we'll throw whatever word at it you like. It's massive, it is for Crawley. And a victory here puts them really in the driving seat. I've said that a couple of times in terms of the playoff picture, but in terms of the relegation scrap, it puts them. It could put them above Burton and really in the mix in terms of trying to catch a Northampton Town or more pertinently a Bristol Rovers. Whereas Peterborough, obviously, they have that space between themselves and the drop. They're not going to get dragged back into anything. They just want to be on a good run. And obviously, momentum for them is key in terms of the EFL Trophy final that's on its way. If they want to get themselves on a good run, get themselves picking up results in a good frame of mind. Poco obviously back, as we spoke about on the review show, then they can go into that game full of confidence. And yeah, so they're playing for very different reasons than a Crawley who are properly fighting for their lives.
And actually, prior to the defeat to Reading for Peterborough on Saturday, there were actually 8 games unbeaten, which I guess sort of that was part of their rise to 15th in the table. So they've been on a really good run of form up to Saturday. So this is their first window opportunity to put it right and to get a result past Crawley, who Peterborough themselves will believe that they are beatable. And sitting as low as they are in the league rankings, Peterborough will see this as one that they could take advantage of. It was actually Peterborough got the victory in the reverse fixture in December. They won that one 4-3, so clearly one for the history books. She had 7 goals between the two sides, but Peterborough came on top at home. The next game we're going to chat about is the final game we're going to look at in detail is Cambridge United hosting Wrexham. Now, in the review episode, we didn't really speak about Wrexham, so this is our chance to sort of chat about the Welsh Dragons, currently in the automatic places, second behind Birmingham City, and they've got a chance to extend their gap, I guess, between themselves in second and Wycombe in third. And Wrexham fans and the squad will believe that they can continue that gap and just build that a bit more momentum.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, there was some bonus episodes from Sam back end of last week. He spoke to a Charlton fan and a Wycombe fan in terms of getting their view of things heading into the automatics. That sort of last few weeks in that fight. Wrexham, obviously, the other team in that trio fighting for the second place spot, and they are in control of their destiny in that respect. They're on an incredible run. It's just 1 defeat in 7 since they were knocked out of the EFL Trophy by Peterborough on penalties, and 5 wins out of their last 6 games. They've kept clean sheets in all 5 of those games as well. They're winning by 1-0, they're winning by 2-0. They're grinding out results, defending really well, and just winning games. That's the important thing. It doesn't matter how glamorous. A 5-0 is worth the same as a 1-0. And Wrexham are just getting results when they need them. And that's been the key for them. Only Birmingham have a better defence in the division this season. And that has been their real route for their success. And they've got all the strikers in the world. I mean, a Paul Mullin, who has been the star man over recent seasons, is on the periphery for a Jay Rodriguez or a Sam Smith, who've been signed for big money from Reading. And there's strikers in there who aren't playing games. Marriott, who was a top-level championship striker a couple of years ago, that there are players in that mix who aren't playing because they've got such a good team up front, but it's the defence that's doing the real bidding and making the difference, and that has been the key for them. And I see them being able to shut out Cambridge United here, and if they can stop Cambridge scoring, they're very, very likely to win the game. It's as simple as that, and they're 6 without victory at Cambridge, a couple of 1-1 draws in that run, though, against Barnsley and Northampton as of late, and 11 points from safety. It's pretty much all over for them, apart from obviously the mathematical sort of considerations. But this is a huge game for Wrexham. If they can win it, they just keep themselves above 2nd, 3rd, 4th, those teams sort of chasing them against 3rd and 4th, I beg your pardon. They can keep themselves in 2nd. And it's all theirs. It's theirs to lose the way they've been playing and winning games, just grinding out results, as I mentioned. And we didn't talk about them in the review show, so to give them a bit more time because they deserve it, how well they've been playing. And there's plenty to talk about with Wrexham because they are flying high. And they've been a real sensation of the season. And I expect that to continue against Cambridge, even if their away form hasn't exactly been as good as their home form.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right in terms of Wrexham and how they've been getting on. They've won 5 of the last 6 games, and with the only defeat coming against Reading, who we know are a very good side themselves. And in all of the games that they have won, you mentioned the defence being an important part. They get the clean sheet in all of those. So defence is clearly the best form of attack from a Wrexham point of view as well. So it's really good going. In terms of Cambridge, their last victory was at the start of the month against the side below them in the table above them, actually. That was Crawley Town, who themselves have had a disappointing season. So, Cambridge occupying the 2nd to bottom position in the league table. So Wrexham surely favourites going into this one. Now, just sort of to sum up the other fixtures taking place on Tuesday at the top of the table, we've got Wycombe Wanderers again facing a side in the relegation zone in Shrewsbury Town. Shrewsbury Town are actually bottom of the table, Wycombe in 3rd. Birmingham City travel to Bristol Rovers. Birmingham City, of course, the top of the pile and deservedly so. Stockport County host Stevenage. Northampton Town host Rotherham United. So that'll be a first game in charge for Matt Hanshaw. Barnsley and Exeter face each other at Oakwell on Tuesday night. Meanwhile, Mansfield Town host Nathan Jones's high-flying Charlton Athletic on Tuesday night as well. So, as we said, a full round of League One fixtures for the final time this season. Thank you very much for tuning into this bonus preview episode brought to you by League One Lowdown. And don't forget, if you haven't already, to give us a like if you're listening on our audio channels, or if you have got this far on our YouTube page and looked at our ugly mugs for the past half an hour, then please do press the subscribe button. Please do give it a thumbs up. Please do leave a comment. We appreciate all your interactions. And we promise if you do leave a comment that one of us will interact with you. But make sure you have hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, getting ever closer. So please, if you haven't already, please do that now. That is it from myself and Jamie. We will be back around Sunday, Monday next week to do the usual review episode. But between now and then, Sam and Callum will be back to give their review on the midweek fixtures and also to preview the upcoming weekend games in League One as well. So plenty to get involved in, plenty of episodes coming your way. And if you hit the subscribe button, you will not miss a thing. So that's everything from us. We'll see you next time.